Oh, good morning. Oh, do we have Mr. Sandman in our eyes? Are we a little sleepy this morning? Good morning. Oh, still not really all that good. Anyhow, today is a wonderful day, isn't it? Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when we first started Lent? Do you remember what that gospel was? Probably not, right? It was a couple of weeks ago. It's like, come on, I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. It was that gospel when Jesus went out into the desert. And we started off Lent listening to how Jesus was hungry. Remember hearing that gospel? Yeah, now it comes back to you because I reminded you, right? And in Lent, don't we try to do something a little different? Now, when you started Lent, did you try to promise that you were going to do things a little different this Lent? You had like a plan, you had it all figured out, right? So you were ready to start Lent. So now it's 2 weeks later. How's it going? How's your Lent going? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's been, right? We tried, right? And we do try. If you remember, even last week, Jesus went up on the mountain and he was transfigured. And even St. Peter, he thought he had it figured out, right? What did St. Peter do last week? He said, Lord, let's stay here. We'll build a business. We'll put up some tents. People will bring us lots of money, and it'll be great. But they didn't stay there, did they? They continued the journey. And now we get to this week. Now, this week, we heard a very interesting story. First off, let me ask some of you a question, and feel free if you want to answer or not. But do any of you have lots of activities in your life? What's your day like? What do you do? So here we got 3 things actually. You have to go to school, right? So every day it's kind of the same thing. You get up, you get ready, you go to school. Then when school ends, you have sports, and then you have choir practice. So that's a lot of stuff some days, right? Oh my goodness, you have to go to dance competitions, and you probably have dance classes. Oh, not competitions. Oh, whew. Just practices, right? Eventually there'll be a competition, I bet, though, right? So you're preparing for that, you're getting ready. So that's a lot of effort, right? A lot of time. We have to do that. Anybody else? Do you do anything a little different? I mean, obviously the sports and the practices and things like that. That's a lot of things. Not one of you have mentioned homework. You have a lot of homework sometimes? Oh, yeah, okay, you get homework? Yeah, gymnastics, okay. My sister used to do gymnastics. I don't do gymnastics. I wasn't very flexible, if you haven't noticed. We have lots of activities. Now, how many of these activities did you do before Lent began? All of them, right? And when we entered into Lent, we had a great plan in our head, but we didn't really change anything, did we? Because we still had the same schedule. So you've been running around like crazy, right? Going from one thing to another, and going from one thing to another, and going from one thing to another. And I thought I had it figured out, and guess what? Nothing really changed. Every year in Lent, the same thing happens to me. I start out like, rah, it's going to be the best Lent ever. I'm going to pray. I'm going to fast. I'm going to give alms. I am going to be so great this year that by the time Easter gets here, I'll be glowing in the dark. And then by the 3rd week of Lent, I'm so dim and dull that happens to us a lot, doesn't it? Did you ever hear this expression? Tell me if you've ever heard this expression. If you don't change anything, nothing will change. You heard that before? So if you don't change the way you do things, nothing will be different, will it? And so I've learned a lesson about Lent. I have to make some changes. I have to make some changes. So if I say I'm going to pray more, but I don't change my schedule, well, what's going to be different? Because I was busy before, and now I'm doing the same busy now, and because I was busy before and I'm doing the same busy now, when it comes time to say that extra prayer, I'm too busy. Because they didn't change my schedule at all. And that's pretty rough sometimes. That's pretty hard. And so when I think I have it figured out, what I really needed to be doing, what I really needed to be working on, is changing me, changing my life, changing my patterns a little bit. So I'm glad that you have lots of activities, and please, as young people, especially when I was younger, I had a lot of activities too. And it's good to have lots of activities. It's good to have your sports and to have your practices and to do all of those things. But every year when we reach Lent, things should be a little bit different, shouldn't they? Things should be a little different. And the only way things are going to be different is if we're able to make some changes in our lives. And so this year especially, we're halfway through Lent. We're just about the halfway. We're getting halfway through Lent. Maybe it's time for us to reinvigorate our Lent. So you made promises for Lent, right? And some of those promises you kept, some of them you haven't. You know, like, I don't know what you gave up, I don't know what you were doing. But sometimes we get halfway through Lent. That's a good time to say, I need to work at it again. I need to try again. And I need to make a couple of changes so that I can make sure that for the next couple of weeks of Lent, maybe I can grow a little bit more in holiness. Maybe I can get a little better. Maybe I can be ready when Easter gets here so that I will be glowing in the dark. Don't you want to glow in the dark? I've always wanted to do that. That'd be so cool. It hasn't happened yet. I've been working on it, but I'm going to keep working on it because Jesus just told us something very important. Did you hear the parable that he just told? Do you have a fig tree? They're not very common here in the Northeast. They're much more popular in the warmer weather. My cousins have fig trees. I love figs. Do you love figs? Nothing like fresh figs off the tree, especially when over there they have 2 times in the year actually that they get to harvest. Over here I think we only get it 1. It gets later in the year. I love those fresh figs. But the owner went there and he loves his fresh figs, and guess what? He didn't find any figs. And what did the owner say? What did he want to do? What did he want to do? Get rid of this tree. It's just taking up space. It's dull, it's boring, it's not doing anything. If it's not going to give me fruit, why do I keep it? But what happened? What happened? Oh, you're good. You're good. I'm going to keep my eyes on you. The gardener said, I'm going to do something different and see if that helps. See, Jesus wants us all to be bearing fruit. Jesus wants us all to be growing in holiness, to becoming better people, of doing these good things, but we have to make some changes to get that to happen. So sometimes if I've sinned, well, I've got to stop doing the sin so I can get better. And if I've done something right, I should try to do it more. And I should keep working at it. Well, that's what happened. Jesus said, listen, give it another chance, but I'm not going to keep doing what I was doing before. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to give it extra soil. I'm going to fertilize it. I'm going to cultivate it. I'm going to take good care of it and come back next year and see what we get. And so that's what Jesus is asking us to do. That's what we do during Lent. We try to cultivate ourselves. We try to make ourselves a little better so that we will bear fruit. Does that sound like a deal? You want to give that a try for me? Maybe? Possibly? I don't know. So listen, why don't you go back, try to find your family, go give whoever you came here with, go give them a big hug and a kiss and thank them for how much they've done for you to help you get to this point. You can go back now. You know, moms and dads, I had an interesting thing the other day with someone who had come up to me, and, you know, an adult. It's happened 2 or 3 times already this Lent to me. It happens almost every year. An adult comes up to me and they say their Lent has just been so flat. Their Lent this year, again, like years past, just wasn't going anywhere. So I said to them, well, why don't you try signing up for the 99? And the answer came back, it was so simple. Oh no, that's the night I have my book club. That's the night I go bowling. Well, bowling, I'm dating myself. The person didn't really say that. I just like to throw that in there. Who goes bowling anymore, right? That's the night and we're so stuck. So I said to her, well, why don't you invite the members of your book club to join? Oh, they'd never do that. So, well, did you ask? If we don't make any changes, nothing will change. And Jesus is constantly saying, you don't have it figured out. And he's got some surprises for us. And he wants us to be holy. And I love Lent as that time. I remember so many times in my life when I entered Lent on fire, and halfway through I had to stir up the coals a little bit. And I had to redo the soil a little bit because I was falling flat because of me. I was letting my life and my routine and my ways get in the way of what God was trying to do. And so, yeah, I thought I had it figured out, and I didn't. And this year especially, I started Lent saying, I don't have it figured out, but this is what I'm going to try to do. And I did make changes in my own life to accommodate what I was trying to do. And so I'm going to say to any of you sitting here, if you haven't signed up for the 99, make it a priority. 3 Tuesdays are all we're asking right now. 3 Tuesdays to make a difference in your life, to change what needs to be changed. Just 3 Tuesdays. 3. And you'll see some things change in your heart and in your life. Invite a friend if you're afraid to come alone. Invite your family. Invite everybody. But if we don't, as Christians, make the change for ourselves, nothing will change. And you know as well as I do, this world it's really desperate for change. And so today, most especially, halfway through Lent, let's reinvigorate our promises. Let's look once again deep into our own hearts, and let's say to the Lord, I want to bear fruit for you, Lord. Help me by helping me recultivate my soil so that I may be rich and able to go forth and share the good news with all whom I meet. God bless you.